Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey kids, this is CJ Ramone of the world famous Ramones, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Turn it up.
The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a privilege to welcome back Mr. CJ Ramone. You remember him of the Ramones, bassist of the Ramones, actually. CJ has released his fifth solo album and follow-up to 2017's American Beauty, The Holy Spell, out now via Fat Wreck Chords. And we're going to be talking to him about that. So, CJ, how's it going, man?
Not too bad. Gearing up to get out on the road, support the new record, The Holy Spell.
So my first question, I got to know, how's the chickens? How are they doing?
Well, I tell you, I relocated my family out to the East Bay of San Francisco last July. Mm-hmm. And where we're at now, we're not allowed to have chickens. But I had a friend who had his own flock, and he took them on. So it's they ended up in a good home anyway.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, man. Would you say the new album, The Holy Spell, is your most, and I mean, this is maybe a crazy question to ask, but most heartfelt release so far as a solo album, possibly?
Yeah. I mean, with my songs, I'm pretty, I do put a lot of personal stuff into my songs in general, but on this album, it's just a little bit more mature, and I think the way that I worded things and the way that I express things, it kind of opens up the door a little bit more. But there's I try not to make it like boring, like some artists, they're really great artists, but their music or their lyrics are just like torturous. It's like hard to get through, and they're like so depressing. Mm. So I just kind of flip things like that on its head. I try to stay pretty positive and optimistic all the time. So sometimes I sing about things that aren't necessarily happy, joyful things, but I make sure that that when I express myself, I express it in the way that I see it. And that's usually that, there's different ways of looking at things. I mean, reality is reality. Like the last song on the record, Rock On, is about my buddy Steve Soto, who played with me, from the get-go and was responsible for me even to a certain extent being out here still. But we lost Steve last year, and I wanted to write a song for him. But, the song that I wrote about Tommy, I wrote in the way I did because of what Tommy was doing just before he died. Tommy was playing in a country bluegrass band, and I picked up a dobro one night, and that song just popped out. And so I put it on the record as it came out. The song about Steve, I wanted it to be uplifting because that's really a better reflection on who Steve was, and a better reflection on what kind of relationship me and Steve had. And that's why, I named the song Rock On, and I just wrote about all the good, positive things, and I'm lucky. I know it's not really a popular thing to believe in the afterlife and stuff these days, but I'm lucky the way that I grew up and what I believe is that I'll see him again. And that's kind of, that's what makes it easier to have to be able to say goodbye, is that I know I'll see him again. And I'll tell you, at the studio and just in my everyday life, little things happen here and there. And I know I know it's Steve letting me know that he's right over my shoulder. And that's why my view on it is a positive one. And I try to give people a point of view maybe that they haven't heard, or maybe something they forgot about, or something that isn't necessarily comfortable to talk about or say, but I try to express it that way.
I want to talk about the Ramones for just a little bit. When the Ramones disbanded and everything, it was all done. How much of an impact did Steve have on you to keep playing music and put yourself out there?
I think I've mentioned it a couple times before. When the Ramones retired, I got out on the road, my own band, Los Gusanos, and but once the baby started coming, I had 2 kids pretty quickly after the Ramones retired, and my boy was diagnosed with autism, and that's when I stopped doing music for a while. But I was still getting out here and there, shooting down to South America, doing a couple shows, doing a couple of things with Bad Chopper and one of my other bands, and right around 2011, I started, I really started making plans to get back into it. And I went out and I recorded Ray Conquista, and I recorded that record 2 times, and I didn't like it either time. And, it was just the weight of the Ramones name. If I was going to do it as CJ Ramone, it had to stand up to that name. And that's how I looked at it. So in my frustration with not, recording it twice and not getting it done, I called up my buddy Joe Sib. So Joe Sib had brought me into his band back in the day called 22 Jacks. Steve was the guitar player and sang all the background vocals, or and songwriter. So that was 1998, and I met Steve then, and me and Steve just hit it off right away. We were just best buds from the get-go. So when I got to that spot, I called up Joe Sib, and Joe said, "Hey, here's Steve's number. Give Steve a call." I called up Steve. He said, "CJ, give me 2 weeks." And I said, "Okay." And I sent him the songs. He immediately got back to me 2 weeks later and said, "Okay, be at this studio on this date. I got the band set up and everything's going to happen." And of course, he brought in all the special guests on that record: Billy Zoom from X, and Jay Bentley from Bad Religion, and Johnny Mauer from Social Distortion, and who else do we have on it? Dennis Casey from Flog and Molly. All these guys came in to play on my record because Steve asked them to. Mm-hmm. So, Steve really had a large impact on my career in general, post Ramones. And yeah, I'm really glad that I got a chance to work with Steve. Just a genuine guy with a big heart, helped a lot of people out through the years, kept a lot of, had a lot to do with the scene doing as good as it does out here in California. He's a tough guy to fill his shoes, I'll tell you, but that's life, man. That's life. And he made such a big impact. I can't imagine if he would have known a couple of years ahead of time that he was going to go when he did. I don't imagine he would have changed much. I think he would have just kept doing what he did he basically came home from tour, went over to see his mom and dad, laid down in the bed in the room that he grew up in, went to sleep and didn't wake up.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
You really can't ask for better than that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just, when I talked to the guys from 22 Jacks at Steve's memorial, I said to them, if you would have grabbed 16-year-old Steve Soto by the shirt and said, "You can do this till you're 54, and then go lay down in the bed in your mom and dad's house where you grew up and go to sleep and not wake up, or you can get a job, get yourself straightened out, don't, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, and live to your 100, Steve would have said, "Tell my mom to make the bed. I'll see you in a couple of years." There's no way he would have ever changed any part of what he did. I'm sure he would have liked to have made a little more money doing it, but in our business, that's how we all are,
What's excited you or even impressed you the most about writing or working on this new album, The Holy Spell, if anything, man? What sticks out the most for you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. There were some things about this record that was totally different. I went through my usual thing of locking myself in a room and writing a bunch of songs and sending the demos out to all the guys in the band and so they could have a little time with it. And I went back to the same studio, Buzz Bomb Studio, where Paul Miner and I did and Steve actually did American Beauty. So that part of it was the same. The different thing was the songs that I had written, I wasn't as confident in them as I was about the songs on my other 3 records. And it kind of made me uneasy. So my drive down to the studio is 6 or 7 hours. And a lot of things came to mind. Steve's not around for this one. I have to coordinate everything. I have to be the everything guy on it. And I was like, yeah, that's probably it. It's probably just that type of thing. But when I got down to the studio and I walked in, I dropped my bags and immediately picked up an acoustic guitar and wrote like 4 more songs.
Jeez.
So I think I just hadn't gotten out of the writing process before I got there. We ended up recording 20 songs for this record. 20 songs we did. This was the most intense recording session I've ever had because I slept in the control room at the studio, and I was I only left for 2 days when my wife came down and we went and stayed somewhere else. But basically, I spent 21 days in the studio, really just totally immersed in the whole creative process, and it really made a big difference on the record. I mean, it's like, I think without a doubt, there's really no comparison between this record and my last record. This record is way more mature. The songwriting is better than it was. Even a lot of my own playing on it is a lot better. And while I love all my records up to this point, this is definitely the record I was working towards with the first 3. This is the culmination of all the different things, all the high points on my other records. This record is a culmination of all those high points, and I'm just really I don't even like know how to like explain it other than that. It's I've never been so confident in a record I put out on every level, and I think that's really the kind of the journey that I started on with Reconquista, and even before that with Bad Chopper. I mean, it's I always wanted to say more and do more and play better, and I think on this record I finally hit a spot where I'm just there. I'm there. I'm where I was trying to get to, and that's a good feeling.
So these songs that didn't make this album, could they see the light of day on another album possibly?
They will. They're gonna. Okay. They're absolutely gonna.
Good deal.
I'm gonna. It's out there. I don't know if I'll release it as an EP or we'll just drop a couple of singles along the way or something. But on the new record, I had a song on there called "Hands of Mine," which is kind of in the feel of the Tommy's Gone thing, but more reflective on myself and my own life, and again in a pretty positive way. But a couple of songs that didn't make it on the record are in that vein. So I think there'll probably be a release of a lot of that more I don't even know what to call that style, just a more mellower stuff.
Was it hard to choose between the current set of songs on the album? Which one would be the first single and maybe a video possibly? Was it hard to choose on these?
I didn't really get involved in that. I leave that up to the record company. Because, the song that I like the best is going to be the song I'm most connected to.
Right.
And that ain't necessarily the best song to grab, it's not necessarily going to be the best song to put on the radio or try to hook people with. But I think, I think Fat, my record label Fat has a good, the people over there, I trust their ear and I trust their opinion, and I just let them make the decision on it.
Paul Miner produced 2017's American Beauty album, and he's worked with Death by Stereo, Newfound Glory, and H2O, and Adolescents. You've teamed back up with him again on this one. How's it work with him, man? And plus having a familiar face on what you like.
Yeah, Paul is really like, he's more than even a producer to me anyway. He's just, guy's incredibly talented and works so fast. The thing I like the best about him, I mean, he sang backups on this. He wrote some of the bass riffs. He plays guitar on parts of it. He plays a little bass on parts of it. I mean, he's so much a project overall that, I mean, he's really like the ultimate utility player. But the thing I enjoy about Paul the most about working with Paul is that he keeps the pace really quick. And for me, the type of musician I am, I don't like to break the creative flow. So if we're working on something, I'm not the type of person where if it gets to a point where everyone's frustrated, I go, okay, let's move on and try something else. I pound it until I get it. You know what I mean? I'll just keep playing it or keep singing it until I get it. Paul's so good at that same thing, at just keeping it moving. Okay, let's try this or let's try that. and he and I are, he's almost like the fifth member in the band. He's that important to the overall sound.
What do you hope everyone takes away from the new album, CJ, or message you hope they hear while listening to it, or just any of your music in general, man?
I try to keep things as positive as I can. I mean, it's like there's enough people throwing gas on the fire out there. It seems like we're going through a little bit of something in the States right now, and everyone's choosing up sides. And if you think this way, you're wrong. If you think that way, you're wrong. If you're not on my team, you're my enemy. And it really just seems to only get uglier. And just like with American Beauty, I had a different title and a different album cover that weren't positive and just more reflective of how I think. And I had a moment where I just paused and I realized, I was like, what does that do? What does that do? Okay, so I'm siding with these people, or I'm not siding with those people, blah blah, by making a statement, any kind of negative statement. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just kind of rise above it, and I'm gonna put out something positive. And I tell you, I went to see bands and stuff when I was a kid. I never liked bands that preached from the stage. You know what I mean? I wanted to enjoy the music and have fun and throw all that stuff off. I didn't want that stuff on my back. When I went to a show, I wanted to forget about the everyday stuff. I wanted to have fun and just get away from it for a little while. And not to ignore reality or anything like that, but just, I don't want to live in politics is part of my life. I don't want it to be my whole life. You know what I mean?
Right,
I go see bands and they'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you're not any smarter than me. Right. You're not in school any better than me. So what are you trying to give me your political opinion for? You know what I mean? I don't want to hear your political opinion. I want to hear your music. And that always kind of stuck in my head. And that's kind of what my music and my shows are geared towards. Check your bullshit at the door. Come in, have a good time. Let's dance. Let's have fun. Just leave all that stuff outside. And you got to do that sometimes. You know what I mean? You can't live in the misery and violence and all that crap. And you got to have a place where you can separate from all of that and just enjoy yourself. Life isn't all politics and, stupid things that come up. It's stuff we have to deal with, but it ain't our lives, you know? And that's for me.
I like what you said there, and I don't hear this hardly even at all when I ask about coming to shows and seeing them. When you said come out and dance and have a good time, I hear the have a good time, but just the dance part, that is still old school stuff to me.
Yeah.
Go out and have a good time, that's what it's about.
Yep.
I'm like you. Check your shit at the door. Yeah, just because it's a big thing, don't be pulling people in just to have more fans to come in and like you because of that. See, that's
well, and that is a legitimate. That's a legitimate way for bands to sell more records.
Sure.
Is to attach themselves to a scene.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but here's the thing: is I was in the Ramones. I've done I've done the big time thing. But when I started doing music this time around for myself, I said to myself, I'm gonna do it my way. I just want to do it my way. You know what I mean? If I don't attach to another scene or I'm not accepted in a scene or whatever, that's okay. That, those kids feel, that they want something different out of music than what I put out. I don't hate them for it. I'm not disappointed about it, nothing. But I can't change what I do to try to fit somebody else's idea of what I should be doing or who I should be doing it with. Mm-hmm. That to me, being a punk is doing it your way. That's the whole shakedown of it is, these days it's like, it's almost like you have to believe this to be a punk, or you have to look like this to be a punk, or, and that is just so not punk rock from where I'm from anyway.
Exactly.
Where I'm from. It was just about doing it your way. That's all it was about. It was just about doing it your way. And that's really more in the spirit of what I'm about. And that's what I've stuck to. And, I don't sell 1 million albums. I don't play in big rooms. I still slug it out in the dirty little clubs and bars and sell a couple of thousand albums. And, and I do get to tour and go to nice places and stuff, but I would rather live in those places and have people from my tribe come into the shows than I would, having to get up on stage and say stuff I don't necessarily believe in and act a certain way and everything to make the big dollars and play the big shows. Just not that important to me at my age.
Yeah.
It never was, but I would rather do it my way and slug it out in the little places than be poster boy for somebody else and get the big gigs and the big dollars.
That's what I always said when I started this show, and plus when I played music back in high school, I did it. We did it our way, and I'm doing it my way. I'm not trying to fit in some type of clique or clad or whatever. I'm doing what I like, and if somebody grabs onto it, that's cool. If they don't, hey, that's cool too. I mean, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. So,
would I like to have a lot of money? Hell yeah,
sure. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah, I'd like to have a lot of money, but I'll tell you, I just as a for instance, I got a message on Instagram the other day, the day the record dropped, from a guy who we follow each other on Instagram. We've had a couple back and forths over the years, just like, about different stuff. He's a military vet, but he sent me a message and he said, he just explained like his background. Like he had lost a child. He was a combat vet. He had lost a child and he really had it rough for a long time. And he pulled out of a downward spiral and he was living his life. But he said when he listened to the song Hands of Mine, he was like, it brought back so many emotions. He was like, thank you for writing that, man. It says a lot of stuff that I couldn't put into words myself.
Wow.
And that's the kind of stuff that I dig. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that I dig. I really enjoy that. That makes me feel like what I'm doing matters and it counts, and that's, like I said, that's my tribe. That's my people right there. Some people get what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people get what you do. They hear they hear your lyrics or they listen to the music and they get what you're trying to put across. Other people don't. They hear it and they go, oh yeah, that's a good song, but they don't understand it beyond that. I think I have more than a couple fans from the other side of that, people who like listen in and they really relate. And that's a place that I like to live. That's what I like.
And that brings everything back around to the surreal part of this for you, man. And plus those fans, I mean, that's just, it's like once you hit that niche like that and connect with us and we connect with you, it's a special thing. And that's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. Yep. And realistically, I mean, these days there's been like a kind of nice resurgence of that type of stuff. Like there are some artists now who like really are trying to make that kind of connection, you know what I mean? Because it just, music in general, the whole music scene got really, just got very kind of too much about money and how to market yourself and all that stuff. And it went that direction for a while, but I'm starting to see a little bit of pushback. There's some artists out there who are just playing to their tribe, finding their people, and that's good. And it always goes back and forth, you comes and goes in cycles. But it's really a nice thing to watch.
Since you've been doing your solo stuff, man, do you see yourself still musically growing from doing the solo, or has it just been more just a personal growth more for you?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, man, I learn from making mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And I said in one of the songs on the record, I say people got to learn the hard way, no matter if you tell them so. And it's the truth. I'm just that kind of hard-headed, just knucklehead. I always have to learn things the hard way. But the good thing is I'm not the type of person to make the same mistake twice. And that's the one thing I got on my side. I mess up. I absolutely do. But I try to learn from it and keep myself in check the next time that situation comes up. Mm-hmm. And these are all things that you learn over the course of your life. You know what I mean? It takes a while to learn all this stuff. But I think that's kind of what makes my point of view relatable to so many people, I'm not singing about being a superhero or the money I have, or like I don't sing about nothing like that. I sing mostly about mistakes I've made, ways I've come back, staying tough, trying to keep my head in the game, always fighting off depression and all that stuff. That's what I put into my music. That's where all that stuff comes from. It comes from my internal struggles and stuff that the people don't see, because most of us keep that stuff to ourselves. We don't want people to know us for our mistakes and our mess ups. We want them to, know us for being a stand-up guy, or somebody that doesn't take any crap, or, somebody who's very caring. We want people to just see that positive side of us. But in what I do, I never claim to be, any higher or any lower than anybody else, and it's, and I put that in my songs, and I think people pick up on it and they relate to it, and gives me a connection with them. And like I said, my tribe, that's the people that I end up with at my shows. And that comes, I swear to God, that comes not just from, growing up blue collar and all that stuff, and, family being first and all that. It comes from the stuff I listened to as a kid. Johnny Cash was a big favorite of mine, always, and that was Johnny Cash's thing, He's like, ain't none of us better than anybody else.
Right. Yes.
And he had a really, really cool perspective with his music, and he went through all kinds of phases and whatnot. But in the end, the stuff that he was putting out was so unbelievably heartfelt and had a lot of good stuff in it. But I grew up listening to that stuff, man. So it really had an impact on me, and you can hear it on this record. Some of the influences that came out on this record are stuff from my deepest, earliest days of music listening when I was a kid. And my mom and dad listened to country music, and moving on. That's really that whole song is an homage to Johnny Cash. I even threw a couple of little key words in there, little phrases and stuff that he uses, just because I wanted to tip my hat to him in that song. I was like, this is a song that Johnny Cash could have wrote, But that's to me, that's the important stuff. Like I said, that's the important stuff. People who listen to me, pretty much for the most part, regular people, and they like the perspective. They can relate to the perspective.
Now, you mentioned earlier that when you're in the recording studio, you pound it out until you get it right. Do you like to do anything differently, though, during that writing and recording process to help keep your mind fresh and open, to not get bored or get stale with it? Do you do anything to break away to help you out with this, maybe?
So, like I said, this time, the beauty of it was I just did not exist in the regular world. I lived in every moment of the day in that studio. I walked outside once a day, usually to get a meal. Otherwise, I lived in that room.
What can fans expect at a show from the mighty CJ Ramone, who have not got to see you live as of yet? What are they going to get when they come to see you, man?
Fun. Nothing but fun. My shows are fun. It's a good time. I guarantee you, you're gonna leave smiling. It's a no bullshit good time. And the guys, I got a really good band. My guys are all good, high-end players. And, it might be punk rock. It's really just rock and roll, But we lay it down. We lay it down thick. I'm really happy with the band I have. I mean, and I feel like, I don't think I would change anything right now. I'm that happy with it.
Is there a country, CJ, that stands out or shocks you that you get support from to this day, and your music still gets played in that area possibly? Is there one that sticks out for you maybe?
South America is crazy to this day. It's like Ramones territory without a doubt. It's really a neat thing. I mean, it's just the Ramones are one of the biggest bands of all time in South America. Yeah. It's like, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Guns N' Roses, and the Ramones are like the big four down there.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, but I love it. I love it.
Is there a band on the bucket list for you like to work, tour with, or maybe do an old school album split with?
There's a couple of artists that I would like to work with at some point. I mean, I'd really like to work with Mike Ness from Social D. I'd like to do something with him at some point. And, however that works out in whatever way it works out, I'd like to do that. Another guy I really would like to work with sometime is Tom Waits.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's crazy, but I love Tom Waits. I always have. I've been a big fan for a long time. I'm the one who voted to get I Don't Want to Grow Up on our last record, on last Ramones record. And on American Beauty, I did a cover of his song Pony. And I'm just a big fan. I wouldn't mind working with Tom Waits, but there's probably a million artists out there that would say the same thing. But yeah, there's some people I'd like to work with, definitely. And one of the songs I recorded on this for this last record, we didn't put it on the record. It's going to be released as a standalone single. I got to work with Dave Hidalgo Sr. from Los Lobos and his son Dave Hidalgo Jr., who plays drums for Social Distortion.
Oh, nice.
They came in and played on the track with me. That'll be out probably sometime next year or something. But it's we recorded the song together. Really awesome tune. Really, really good one. But that was a big treat to work with those guys.
Every time I listen to Tom Waits, I want to just chug a glass of water or something. I got to chug something because my throat hurts when I listen to him. Yeah. It's like, here, man.
You got that whiskey and cigars voice, you know?
Yeah. I'm like, oh God, here, drink this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. How I always used to explain to people was like, it's like listening to your grandfather sing standing at a bar somewhere, smoking a cigar and drinking whiskey. That guy's just unreal, man. I really appreciate his songwriting and his voice. It's really great.
It's genuine. You can actually tell his music is genuine.
Without a doubt. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's like you said, there's no bullshit fillers. It's all genuine.
Yep.
If you could relive, and I know you've done a ton of shows with the Ramones, if you could relive one show, which one would it be possibly? If you could think of any, maybe.
I mean, as far as like crazy, wild shows goes, we played at River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I think it was 40,000 people. That was a wild one. But if I could relive a moment on stage, like the best moment, that'd be at our last show when Lemmy came up on stage and from Motorhead, and we did the song Ramones and standing next to each other, jamming out, him singing harmonies. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. That's probably the highlight of my live thing right there.
CJ, my friend, as always, how can folks stay in touch with you? Buy some merchandise, tour dates, this CD. How can you do that, my friend?
Oh, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as THEE CJ Ramone. You can get the record and all that stuff at Fat Records, fatrecords.com. They got that's where you pick up all my music. Also, one other cool thing I want to mention is my first 3 records, Reconquista, Last Chance to Dance, and American Beauty, are all being released through Pirates Press Records as picture discs this year.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Sure. Okay. Hey, kids, this is CJ Ramone of the world's famous Ramones, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Turn it up.
Everybody stick around. We've got some great music coming up, and you'll hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and hopefully soon our Twitch link. Also, get out and check out Mr. CJ Ramone and check out his 5th album, the follow-up to 2017's American Beauty, The Holy Spell. Trust me, his music is still kick-ass to this day. CJ, thank you so much for still staying true and not giving up your roots to the punk rock, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.